Hey, you're listening to the Smoke Meat Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Pittman. Smoke Meat's brought to you by Joe's Underground at the corner of 8th and Broad in Augusta, Georgia, in the bottom of the Lamar Building. Such a great place to go. Everybody there just treats you like family from the first time you walk in. I love going there. Just remember, I goes to Joe's and so should you. That's Joe's Underground, the corner of 8th and Broad in Augusta, Georgia, in the bottom of the Lamar Building. Today, my guest is Luis Oliart. He is such a great performer, great musician, does blues so well, does everything so well. Also an educator and an all-around good guy. So we're going to get this beast kicked off here on Smoked Meat. Hey, so how you doing today, Luis?
I'm good, Brad.
Outstanding, man. How's the weather out there? Is it beautiful today?
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, some that are from here, which I'm a native here, would say, "Oh my God, it's hot and miserable." But if you've lived, in Kansas and the Iowa and the Midwest, you know that we're getting off lucky out here on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Beating that humidity and stuff.
Oh yeah, come to Georgia, man. It's like walking into a hot shower when you go outside.
Yeah. I actually, in my youth, before the internet and all that, I spent 2 years as a bass player playing in Bangkok, Thailand. And my goodness gracious, I don't know that I'd ever, a monsoon, I actually experienced monsoons regularly, and the humidity was the same thing, like a shower.
Oh, man. Gotta love it, man. Well, I know you've got your new single out right now. I like to get all my promotions going, so we can get people listening, knowing about them and thinking about them, and then we just kind of steer this thing wherever it's going to go. But tell me a little bit about this new single. I like that it was everything was done during the pandemic.
Well, it's called Love's a Lost Art, and it was basically it's a pretty cool funky blues. I'm a blues, soul, rock and roll artist, but I've as an LA musician and a guy who's had to survive playing music, back in, especially in my younger day, you learned how to play just by playing with whomever. So I have great respect for music, period. But I'm in my heart and soul, I like roots music. So it's a rock and funky thing, somewhere between B.B. King's sound in the early 70s and Rage Against the Machine when they came out, somewhere in between there, And it was developed with playing with Scotty Page and Stephen Perkins and Kenny Olson, Norwood Fisher, Chuck Boogie, John Stewart, some of these guys from the Fishbone Camps. And we used to have a jam band before the pandemic that was playing pretty regularly, weekly, twice weekly. And so a lot of times I would have grooves that I would work on, and, you'd kind of work out the kinks. And then lyrically, it was just, I think love's out there. You just have to look harder for it. And I was going through that just like everybody with the frustration of the pandemic. So the hook is, I'm cursed with the blues, baby, because love's a lost art, and that's it.
I'm digging it. I am digging it. That's what my bed music is. And when this episode's over, everybody can listen to the whole thing, because we're going to put it on here, and it's a wonderful thing. I remember about a month ago I got to listen to Scott and everybody do a Zoom concert, and man, nothing like it. To be in that camp and to be friends with them and actually get to play with them, you're a lucky rascal. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and then I recorded. I have a home studio, and I'm with a label called Mesa Blue Moon Records, and so over the last year, I've just been releasing singles every few months. It's a lot less stressful than trying to do an album, and so I did one album with them in 2017 with Mesa Blue Moon Records with George Knopfel and the camp over there, and then we started going to singles. So this is my third single on Mesa Blue Moon. And this one, which has been cool, it's because it's such a, I feel close to it. You write good songs and you throw them out there, and, the people dig it or they don't, and you just do your best. But this one took its own legs and started getting a lot of playlists, because I feel good about that it was written from it was a reflection of what's happening right now in society versus a love song's always timeless, but this was a little more charged by just the unrest of the people and just trying to get folks back on track with everything's going to be all right and just, stay close to your heart.
Yeah. And, what's the one good thing about the pandemic is, if you can find anything good in it, is the fact that a lot of creativity is coming out of it. And, people are changing some, whether, the news or whoever wants us to see that. As a paramedic, I see it every day. And while there is still bad in the world, I mean, this isn't a poof, everything's rainbows by no stretch, but, people are changing. During all the riots and all the things that we were seeing that was horrible on TV, what they weren't showing is the peaceful things, the people who were getting along, the people who were talking and trying to settle things and work things out. And, it's because, like the song says, love is a lost art, and people are learning that art again.
Amen. Amen. So that's been kind of my. You're working as a paramedic, and I'm out in general locally, just helping out my community when I see, let's say, the homeless folks that are all over the place. I'm the type of a person that I do research, I do interviews, and then I go upstream to look at what services are supposed to be out there or not out there, and generally in my neighborhood within a certain jurisdiction where people in positions of power are responsible for those areas, and then unify the neighborhood. And like you said, there's so much. It's a little disheartening sometimes on how I'm around such good love and action, by people that just demand a dignified living condition, but just there's that negative energy is so powerful sometimes, and just I don't know the inherent need for drama as human beings just bewilders me. I mean, soap operas have proven that,
Yeah, and I just the homeless thing still floors me. I still don't understand it because, I was telling somebody the other day, Chris Rock put it best. America is the only country in the world where we have fat, poor people. And it just doesn't make sense that we can't help people and, not just, I don't mean just by, okay, here's a place to live, yeah, help them that way. But at the same time, okay, here's some life skills, here's some job skills, here's a helping hand to make it where you can sustain this. And that pays forward big.
Yeah. Well, you made some critical I developed what I call a HRS system, a homeless reduction system here locally, and it really, heaven forbid somebody is on the street, then generally the basis, if you were to look at it like a baseball diamond, would be services, and that's generally the faith communities and a lot of the non-profs. And then when you start getting to structure and temporary housing and the things you talk about, detox programs and job skill programs, and you get to stability, which is a little more of a permanent residence, so to speak, and then ultimately becomes, you said the word, sustainability, which is almost like the life cycle I don't know if you have kids, but I do. My son's in college, which we use to get our kids sustainable. But unfortunately, the front end of that, anyway, I can only speak locally in lots of interviewing, it's either economic hardship, which could be unemployment. A lot of times it's the average wage versus what the cost of living is, especially around rents and housing. And then there's also health issues, which generally has been mental health issues. And then there's a huge, as we know, opiate issue, and the heroin is everywhere with the homeless community here. So those elements basically are the primary causes. And another aspect is, I don't mean to go digress here, but just reentry is also a big deal, meaning with the criminal justice system, in general in my area, the reentry programs they're non-existent, but they're very heavily funded. Yeah. So a lot of guys I'll talk to might not have the other symptoms I described, but since they've been out of the penitentiary and served their time honorably, and done their time, they just don't stand a chance socially assimilating, and then they just go back into the system, and it's a vicious cycle. And then the prisons don't have enough money or enough capacity, and they just keep coming back out. And that's after interviewing folks that are in law enforcement. So I think it's just a generational thing where it's really slid, and I'm just working on programs where I'm educating families and the things that I just talked about, so people understand that. So when those kids have the opportunity to have a voice in how their neighborhoods are, they understand the city and the county and the state and the federal government on how they work and how they're represented locally.
Yeah, I mean, Go ahead.
I think my tangent is done. I'm out of breath.
Oh man, yeah. You know, it's funny. Everybody in the world, you know, that it seems like is in a position to do something and to help a lot of people. You know, a lot of times they'll say things and they'll have great intentions when they get up there, and when they get in their position where they can do it, they want to keep that position so bad that they don't want to have to do anything like that, you know, to aggravate anyone. And they forget what they promised a lot of times, or they can't deliver. They promise things they can't deliver, and that really bothers me. And it, you know, like I said, the opioid crisis, it's real. I mean, and down here, you know, just where I'm at, just south of Atlanta, one of our big things is meth. You know, meth is still going really strong. And we're starting to see more heroin and things like that, and it's a sad situation, you know. And the homeless situation, it's funny. You can tell it was not funny, but I can't really explain the word I'm wanting to use. But you can tell when the weather's about to get bad, or when it's starting to be really cold or really hot, or if it's going to rain, because you can tell by a lot of your patients, because we pick up a lot of homeless people, and their chief complaint will kind of dictate what the weather, you know, the weather kind of dictates what it's going to be. If it's going to be raining for a week, then a lot of times to get into that hospital, to be off the street, you know, because they have nowhere to go, their complaint will be more serious. And
right.
if they're wanting to go in and basically be fed, you know, it's, my knee hurts and things like that. And it's a sad thing, and it's sad that I can recognize this, you know, and a lot of people don't talk about that.
Well, that's such great information, Brad, because that's one thing in my local neighborhood, and it's been more effective speaking to my general population and neighborhood, speaking through economic impact to break through the general stigma of the homeless person. Stigma is so powerful, and you and I and everyone probably listening, you know, historically, you can see how powerful stigma has been through history. Yeah. So the homeless get stigmatized, but what I try to explain, for example, is that when the bikes are getting stolen from the nice neighborhoods here, if a parent has to buy 2 bikes a year or 3 bikes a year for their kids because the bikes are getting stolen, and here they're either traded to the gangs to sell on the black market while the gangs provide the narcotics. And so there's this parasitic relationship where, because of the homeless folks, tuitions are going up at the local schools because there's more security, more gates. Mm-hmm. Restaurants prices go up a little bit more because they have more security. And so then as a neighborhood, we're feeling that burden of having to pay both the taxes that are supposed to be taking care of this, which we have a lot of those programs into effect, and it's a struggle to get them to reach the street. Plus the second, what I'm going to call the soft cost. And like you explained, you're a paramedic, so gosh, man, I want you to get to the guy having the heart attack or the car accident quicker than quick, and not have to take care of a homeless person who's just trying to find shelter and work the system. You see, I mean, you're part of that ripple effect economically that's costing the community that could maybe be. You get my context around this, better spent to be more focused on things that are, I'm glad you said that. I hadn't thought of that soft cost.
Yeah, and even if people don't go by ambulance, we when I was in the ER, we had a lot of people that would, and it's sad that a lot of people can get help, and I know. A lot of people say that addiction is a disease, and to a point it is, because I've got an addictive personality. I'm lucky, I recognize that, and I stay away from things I know. Okay, this is going to be a big problem if I mess with this or whatever, be it whatever. But you have some people out there who just enjoy that life, not even worried about the drugs or anything, just not having any responsibilities or anything, and that seems weird to understand, but I mean, I've actually had that in my family.
Yeah,
and
no, it's very real. I find it interesting. I play music for a living, and I wouldn't know what to do because I've always done that, and I've always been an artist and written songs and all this stuff. But I do this stuff where you walk out and you talk to the people under the encampment and try to understand, the laws, so you can be the middle person to kind of negotiate a deal. And those descriptions that you say, well, guys, hey man, I don't want to have to go back to that kind of a lifestyle and have to cope with this and the systems that are out there and paying taxes and all that stuff. And the issue that they have is because it's more poverty driven. They're really like imprisoned by the system, so to speak. That's just the feeling I get in the interviewing process. It's not like they're economically really successful in having a problem with the system. It's just easier to be free when you're, instead of poor and in the system. Homeless and free than poor and in the system. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's a sad situation, and I wish that I knew a way to snap my fingers and fix it all. And like I said, the people who need help and who are willing to accept it, it's a wonderful thing. But another thing, is the people that are given help. I love helping people any way that I can. If I've got it, I'm not going to let anybody go hungry. I don't give anybody, here's $10, whatever. No, I'll buy you whatever you need to eat. I'm easy. But, I hate whenever somebody does help and they make such a spectacle out of it. Look at me. I hate that,
Yeah, that's the that's the photo op crowd, and I got
hate that.
Yeah, man, that's, I think that's why, like with the song, if we want to go back to that, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm generally I'm a kind man, a compassionate man, but I got a pretty pissed off general disposition, and a lot of times being a teacher of children and playing of music is really almost therapeutic for myself. So I was pretty pissed and frustrated about lots of things when I wrote that song. Yeah. And so that's where the origins of the lyrics, which are general lyrics, and I think most people can fill in what it means to them. Mm-hmm. But that kind of behavior, where but like you said, with the pandemic, people are having to kind of to dig back in, search their character, look in the mirror. You don't have a choice, because it's going to be a little bit. It's going to continue.
Yeah, I'm aching for this thing to be over, one, because it's just a horrible thing. And also, like I told you, I'm down here in my basement in my studio for the next couple of weeks because of this. And, it's not because I've got it, but because I'm so high risk that if I'm close up on somebody that has it, then I come down here because I don't want my wife and kids to get it. And it seems like every time I finally get out of the basement, we have a spike. So Daddy's back down here. Well, I love my studio. I don't love living in my studio.
Right. Oh, goodness gracious. So, but are you masked up and goggled up and gloved up when you're out in the field
Oh yeah,
as a paramedic?
yeah, definitely. Because I've seen this stuff firsthand, and I do not want it. No, everybody says, "Oh, it won't kill you." Believe me, there are things worse than death. Oh yeah, and this thing is horrible. It doesn't discriminate. It don't care what you look like, who you sleep with, where you're from, what color you are, anything. It's just mean. It's nasty, and it wants to take, and it does.
Well, what on I'm curious with being in the podcast and having talked to some of my buddies, especially Scotty. Scotty was always a very Scotty and most of those guys who are rock stars that that you've talked to, they were always real. I was always an independent artist, and they all upped my game once we met by just pulling me into their camp and playing with them. So I was always Scotty has been a very supportive friend, Scotty Page. I know he's been a guest on your show. Is that right?
Yeah, he is. I'm actually fixing to publish his shortly. He is my 100th episode.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows Scotty's a rock star and he's doing all these other things and he's, technical man and all this stuff. But simply to say he's my friend and he's had my back, especially as a young artist where I'm not young, but the almost famous category, you know what I mean? And he was nothing but, all those guys have been nothing but supportive,
Oh, man. Yeah, and yeah, I love Scotty, and Kenny Olson, Steve Perkins, Norwood. They've all been great. I've had them all on the show, and I mean the neat part is I can call them now and just be like, "How you doing, man?" And we'll talk, and that is so cool because I've never been famous. I've been a comedian for 30 years, but not even close to famous. Just having fun with it, and these guys, are famous. They're some of my history, growing up years, my past. And they're friends now. Because I don't just do interviews on here. I like to make friends because of that. I'm a people person. And,
Yeah.
This thing steers itself a lot of times. I go from, I usually try and get everything, all the fanboy stuff out of the way at the beginning because that's what I'm better at not fanboying out, going, oh my god, I don't do that, and it just kind of steers. I mean, I've gone from talking about a Grammy Award winning song that somebody wrote to Bigfoot in 2 minutes.
Yeah. But, well, we're all human, man. We're all human, all human beings, And the second you lose sight of that, then we got a problem.
Exactly. I may as well get on here with my radio voice and go, so, Luis, tell me about your new single. What label is it on? And that's garbage. You don't want to do that. You've answered that 1,000 times. But, man, I'll tell you, the name of the show is Smoked Meat. And I got to know. One, I used to just say, I need your favorite recipe or your favorite thing to eat, but I've got criteria now because it's bitten me. Do you eat meat?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Do you barbecue? Or do you like barbecue or grilled stuff?
Yes.
Outstanding. Oh, man, because that's my thing. I do that a lot, but I cook everything in general. What's your favorite barbecue or smoked meat or whatever? Just if you got buddies over, what you going to cook if you're cooking?
What am I going to cook, or what am I going to order at the barbecue place?
I was about to say,
I'm limited on what I can cook.
I was going to say, or what are you going to order?
Well, I like to do, if I go to a barbecue place locally, I always try to go to the barbecue place where when I would be in touring in, let's say, going from Texas into Louisiana, and you'd see that we're not in Kansas anymore, and the terrain and environment changed to more of the swampy trees and stuff. Yeah. And or like someplace in San Francisco, you go in the barbecue joint, there's no substitutes, you know, and you ask, could I get, and you get that dirty look.
Yeah.
I found that, I say this with love, you know, that a little bit ruder or quicker they were behind the counter, the better the queue was, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I always try to hit a place like that, which are limited in Los Angeles, but when I do go, I'll always, I like to get the variety, you know, where you get the sausage, you get the chicken, you get the baby back, you know. I like to try a little bit of everything. I do that. And then if I'm cooking, you know, I have two, especially since the pandemic, two pretty big, you know, big barbecues in the back, both, you know, gas or charcoal. Mm-hmm. I just happen to have two because I'm a prepared guy. I didn't know what was coming, you know. Is there going to be a power outage? I was going to be eating, you know. So yeah. I usually do like a nice, a big old, like a porterhouse steak, and then I'll kind of saturate it with Worcestershire sauce. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of keep doing that, and then that's a slow, low heat, and lower it and let the smoke kind of do its thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm not one of those crazy guys going to talk about soaking wood. I know a guy used to tour like that, and there'd be wood in the doggone van, and then we get to the hotel, and he'd throw it in the sink, you know, and then we'd have our little kettle queue on the road. So I'm a lover of barbecue, but don't get me like talking to a bunch of guys that are hardcore cookers, but I'll definitely, you know, that's what I do, my steak, and then I have tomato, avocado, and then my rice, and then a light dressing on the avocado and tomato, and it's probably one of my favorite meals.
Oh, cool. Well, when you come down there, Atlanta, all you got to do is call me and let me know you're coming. You are fed.
Thank you.
I will definitely do it, man, because actually that's my thing. I love cooking. Next time you do chicken, here's something for you to put on your chicken. I actually got two things for you. One is a rub I use for chicken or pork. It's real simple. It's equal parts of regular chili powder and country thyme lemonade mix. Yep.
Nice.
The sugar and lemonade mix caramelizes, and man, it's awesome. But another good sauce for chicken is you take you take peaches and puree them, and put in heavy cream an equal part with it, and 1 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and just reduce it down by about half. Great sauce for chicken.
Nice.
But, oh yeah.
Really nice. Well, I had and then I don't know if this counts, but I had for whatever reason, the last time I went to the doctor, I'm a pretty healthy guy for being over 50, you know, and take care of myself and all that. But they said, hey, you know, your cholesterol is down, so you got to do fatty fish. I said, down? I said, okay. So now I'm buying these big, massive salmon fillets. So I've been doing those, and I definitely cue them. I always cue them because that wouldn't be my first meat of choice, but if I had to do it, that's what I would do. So I've been eating a lot of that, and that's been good too. A nice slow cook on the barbecue. It's quick, you know.
Oh yeah, man! I just got a great recipe for salmon from Kenny Wilkerson's book, The Rockin' Recipes for Autism. The recipe I've been using is a wasabi sesame crusted salmon. Oh, dude, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. It is really good. I mean, just a thin layer of wasabi, and then put sesame seeds on there and bake it for about 15 minutes. Oh, man, it is so great.
Wow, man, I think this is our bigger connection, man.
Oh yeah, man, I tell you.
Besides saving humanity, man, let's cue. All right.
Oh yeah, and I tell you, if you're looking for an addition to your backyard, look at those Blackstone griddles. Have you ever used one of those?
No.
It'll change you. It's a wonderful thing. Runs on propane, and man, I cook all kind of stuff on it. Fried rice, I can do it just like any restaurant I've been to.
Awesome.
You're gonna cook breakfast for a bunch of folks. When you cook pancakes on it, when you start pouring them up in this corner, by the time you're finished in the other corner, they're ready to flip, and it's just boom, 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 and it's done. But that's worth looking into getting. Just a Blackstone griddle.
I like it.
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
Oh, yeah.
What else is happening in regards to, I'm curious with your podcast, artistically, what have you noticed? Like, And the reason I asked that question is because, like, personally, right when the pandemic hit, I recorded 3 singles. I shot my own videos, like, within the house, and messed around with a variety of technical things, nothing too fancy with lighting, and it all kind of worked. It was all guerrilla and rogue, but they've been received really well. So I like how it's forced you to, create. It's forced ingenuity,
Yeah.
so to speak. What have you noticed with talking to all the artists you've noticed? Any trends?
Well, I know a lot of people are, they're writing some more, and they're trying to record some more. I talked to Kenny Aronoff, and he's, of course, he's a beast. He's always recording something. And Fabrizio Grazzi, his studio's right next to Kenny's. So they're both of them are always doing something or another.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody I've talked to, pretty much, they're either just taking this time to be with their families and relax a little bit, or they're trying to figure new ways to get their music out there and to get their words out there, and it's forcing people to be more creative and to kind of think outside the box.
Yeah.
I do little videos here and there. I've got a YouTube channel, and I do character videos. And I actually put out an Amazon list when this thing first started, because I love hot food too. And it had all the hot challenges on it. And I told anybody, if you order something and it comes to me, then you can pick the character I do and what they do while I'm doing this challenge. And that has been interesting, because I film it all down here. And my last one, I've got a clown named Murray. Murray is a horrible clown. Oh, he is horrible. His first video he ever did was 10 minutes of magic, but he drank a fifth of bourbon in that 10 minutes while he was doing magic, which it was tea in the bottle, because if I drank like Murray, I would die.
Right.
This last one was doing what they call the white chocolate challenge, which is a piece of white chocolate, which is really great, but it's infused with 12 of the hottest peppers in the world, which was, that thing was rough. But the guy that bought it for me wanted me to do Murray reading some of the parts of 50 Shades of Grey. Oh man, that was an interesting one to film. I think I may retire Murray for a while after that one. It was rough.
Yeah.
But I've learned a lot about doing videos, and my production on this has gotten a lot better. I finally broke down and got a new board, because my other one was. It was a good board. It was just a little cheap board. And I went to this one. It's a Zoom L8. And this thing is just, man, it's kicked up the game so much. And I'm learning. We're getting there. So.
Yeah. Always a journey. And then I have a 23-year-old son. And I got him. He's studying environmental science and religious studies is his minor, and believe me, this was a kid that was like an atheist and an agnostic and grew up in a church, and then all of a sudden now he's minoring in religious studies, So you were just telling me about family, and I raised a boy here as a musician. Probably my prouder moment as an artist was to have been a sustainable artist, and then been able to raise my son, doing what I love, and getting him launched, How about you? Do you have, did you see your daughter?
I have 2 daughters. I've been married for 21 years, and I've got a daughter who is going to be 20 in October, and I've got one that's 17 now. And the 20-year-old's back home with us. She had went away to college down to Augusta, which isn't really far away, about 2 hours. And since the pandemic, the things just kind of went haywire for a little while, so she came on back home, and she's about to start over at a different school just to kind of clean slate. Here we go. And my other daughter is actually going to be a senior this year in high school, and it's just the worst time in the world to be a high school senior. Man, because they're talking about just doing online classes this year, and I hate that, because it's robbing her of her senior year.
Yeah. My son is a super senior, meaning, and he wouldn't mind me telling anybody this, but he he's a brilliant guy, but like everyone, have to learn how to manage things, and so he tanked a few courses in the freshman and sophomore year, and then the greater good was he made all those courses up and didn't let his GPA go down and drop some while he was tanking, and he fixed his own mess, you know what I mean, and owned his own state of being. So I was very proud. So now he's got a second senior year to finish. And there was a part of me, early on, I was like, gosh, I wanted you to do it in 4 years. But now that the pandemic hits, I'm almost looking at it like it's a blessing,
Yeah.
It's getting pushed out a full year. I almost feel blessed around it.
Yeah.
Because so he has that victory, that win.
Yeah. For me, family is everything. Like I say, no matter what I do, at the end of the day, they're the ones I think about. They're the ones I base all my decisions around because, I brought them into the world, This woman decided to love me for the rest of my life and be with me, and I take that really seriously. And I just love them. I even love our little rotten dogs, which I don't know how much longer they're going to be around, and I really hate that because we've got a little Jack Russell who is right at 20 years old, and we've got a little toy poodle who is 19. So, man, they've always been here.
19, my goodness.
Yeah. Yep. So they're getting on up there in age a little bit, but they're good kids, and they just kind of lay around with mama. But yeah.
Well, listen, you've got a friend here in Los Angeles, and whatever I can do for you, my friend, I'm happy to support any endeavors that you're doing, and I really appreciate you having me on your program.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on, man. I've had a blast, and you've got a friend here in Atlanta. Anytime you get down this way, like I say, you are fed. Anything you need, and I've got it, you've got it too.
Okay, well that's great. And then just I'll be listening. Where do I catch your program?
We're anywhere you can get your podcasts at. We're on Apple. We're on Google. We're on Spotify. I've also just launched a website, smokedmeatpodcast.com.
Okay.
And like I say, I'm gonna publish this, and I'm gonna promote it pretty good. And I'm gonna put all your links in my show notes where everybody can click and go, okay, here we go, let's rumble. And man, I tell you, I've had just a great time today.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's done my heart well and kind of cleared my head. Like I said, it's good to get out of the box and just have a human conversation with someone that's. I find it's been struggling lately, just talking to someone where they're just not just being yanked down into the land of misery.
Yeah.
Life is, I'm down, I can't get up.
Exactly.
No, it's going to be all right. No, the abyss. It's like, good Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I figured out if I start down that path, it's ugly, and I've just got to find the good in everything. Because it's real easy for me to find the bad in anything. I could find the bad in a rose.
But, yeah.
But I work to find the good in everything, and it works 99% of the time. I mean, I have my rough days, but yeah, it is what it is. But I done figured out, in my old age, gotta have fun with stuff. If you can't have fun with it, it's not worth doing. Yeah,
amen. Well, listen, man, I'm a teacher. I also teach music, and I got a student. Thank God I'm able to do that online, and got to go take care of that. But it's a pleasure meeting you, Brad. Wish you and your family the best, and thank you so much. Such respect for someone who's a paramedic. I mean, thank you.
And thank you very much. And you're welcome on here anytime. If you ever want to be back on, just call and say, hey, Fat Boy, let's record, and I'll hit the button. You've seen how fast I can get it done.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll just work with Eileen, and we'll talk soon.
Cool deal. I appreciate it.
All right, man. You take care. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.